how many issues of Spider-Man does it take to get to the center of the main Jackal confrontation? Let's find out. A 1, a 2... Welcome to Kevin's commentary on comics. Hey guys, I started about 5 episodes ago a focus on the first appearance of the Jackal and how he really messed with Peter Parker, and here we are on the 6th episode and we haven't gotten there yet. Why? Because Spider-Man in the mid-70s was so bleeping fantastic, it was hard for me to pick which issues to talk about. Well, no more. Let's fast forward through some of these so we can get to the main event. I'll touch on some key points in each of these issues, and specifically ones that lead up to the big Jackal standoff. Come on, you know what I'm talking about, right? And away we go! And by the way, all of these issues were written by Jerry Conway with art by Ross Andrew. So, from September 1974, we have The Green Goblin Lives Again in Amazing Spider-Man number 136. I was going to do a full review on this one, but I don't know, this almost seems like a tired story. It was probably exciting back in the day, but even then, how many times did Norman Osborn come back as the Green Goblin? And it pretty much played out the same way. He gets paranoid, he gets sweaty, he goes nuts, he puts on the costume. Same thing here, just replace Norman with Harry. Now, one significant thing here and how it affected Peter's life was the blowing up of the apartment he shared with Harry Osborn. This apartment had been a fixture for quite some time in the Spider-Man universe, so it being demolished was kind of a big deal. I mean, this was really Peter Parker's first apartment after he moved out with Aunt May, so it being destroyed, impact. Definite impact. So Spidey figures out that Harry is the new Goblin rather quickly and easily. They battled out for a little bit, but because the Goblin ran out of juice for his costume, he flies off. End of issue. Yawn. So next up, we have Amazing Spider-Man number 137 from October 1974, Death Trap ×3. Actually, the title on this one was a little confusing for me because on the splash page it says, The Green Goblin Strikes. But that was just the title to the prologue, which consisted of the Green Goblin basically robbing a truck. So the first part of this issue is Peter somehow forgetting his apartment was blown up last issue. I don't see how that slips your mind. And him checking on Mary Jane, who was also caught in that blast. So I guess it's a good thing he didn't forget about that as well. Then Spidey finds the Green Goblin at yet another abandoned Norman Osborn place. Usually it's a warehouse or some sort of factory or something, but this time it's a townhouse. Why was the townhouse closed down? I mean, wouldn't they have just sold it? The estate have gotten rid of it, and just how many of these abandoned places did he have? I know he was rich, but still. Anyway, they fight, and Harry reveals that he has Flash Thompson, Mary Jane Watson, and Aunt May in locked chairs in unknown locations with, get this, clean fusion nuclear bombs over their heads. Well, just one is over one of the 3 heads. It's a trick, you see. Peter has to figure out which one has the real bomb above them, and if he figures out the wrong one, the real bomb will go off. But let's just hold on a second. A nuclear bomb? Wouldn't it just been good to have a grenade or something? Or maybe just a regular bomb? Maybe those ball ones with a little fuse on it? A nuclear bomb seems a little bit like overkill, so to speak. Overkill, get it? It's over their heads and it's going to kill them. Overkill. Anywho, Spidey figures it out, of course, and again, does it quite easily, that the real bomb is over Aunt May's head, and he hurls it into some water, and of course, it blows up without any problem. Again, this is a nuclear bomb. It clearly said nuclear bomb. Now, I don't know if a clean fusion nuclear bomb is less powerful than your standard issue nuclear bombs, but when I hear nuclear, I think city leveling type power, not just splashing up some water if it gets dunked in water. So we close the issue with Harry actually telling the cops that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Peter Parker's a little bit nervous at first, but the cops ask, well, how do you know that? And Harry proudly exclaims, because he is the Green Goblin. So the cops were like, yeah, well, what'd you start when you were 4 years old? They pretty much figured that Harry has gone loony, and they cart him off. So next up, we've got Spider-Man number 138 from November 1974. Madness Means the Mindworm. The only significant thing to come out of this issue is that Peter moves in with Flash Thompson for one issue, basically. at his apartment complex, which also housed some freak of nature, presumably a mutant, called the Mindworm, who takes control of people in their sleep and feeds off their emotions or something like that. It was really crazy and really forgettable. Moving on. In December 1974, we got The Amazing Spider-Man number 139, Day of the Grizzly. Yeah, the Grizzly is a pretty lame villain, but I actually kind of liked him for some reason. He was certainly strong and notable. There are a couple of notable things in this issue. First of all, Peter finds his own apartment, and we see the first appearance of his landlady, Mrs. Muggins, who becomes kind of a thorn in his side at times. So significant. Peter getting his own apartment. This is the first one. I think the Chelsea apartment. So the Grizzly appears at the Daily Bugle looking for who else? Jonah Jameson. Luckily, Peter is there, switches to Spidey, and they have a rather brief battle where the Grizzly is actually triumphant and takes off. But before he does, Spider-Man does manage to get a spider tracer on him. Peter Parker tracks him down to a place in Washington Square where he is knocked out and dragged into the apartment he thought the Grizzly was at. Well, he was right. The Grizzly was there, but so was the Jackal. Finally, the Jackal returned. So this leads to Amazing Spider-Man number 140 from January 1975, entitled And One Will Fall. So you have the Grizzly and the Jackal with a captured Peter Parker who they want so they can get to Spider-Man. You know, because Peter takes so many pictures of Spider-Man, and whenever you have Peter Parker, you got Spider-Man. That's their reasoning. They knock him out so they can perform the operation. Sounds ominous, doesn't it? But what was it? Well, we find out pretty quick as Peter comes to at the Daily Bugle where Ned and Betty find him. Now, for some reason, they don't immediately call an ambulance when they find their passed out friend, but whatever. They go to get some coffee, and Peter notices something's wrong with his arm. He heads to the bathroom to discover a harness on his arm that he can't take off or it will basically destroy his arm. So this gizmo is supposed to track Peter wherever he goes, and I guess has a camera on it or something so that the Jackal can figure out whenever Peter Parker is taking pictures of Spider-Man or whatever, then the Jackal can go and get Spidey, I guess. Man, this gizmo must bother Peter for at least a few issues, right? Well, not so much. We cut to Peter showing off his new apartment to Flash Thompson, and we get introduced to a new supporting character, Glory Grant. Later that night, Peter starts fiddling with the arm harness. He uses a blowtorch and snips the thing off pretty easily. So that threat lasted about 12 panels. Really seems like a waste. I mean, they could have had some interaction with this thing. I mean, basically it was put on and 2 pages later it's off. Peter dumps it into the Hudson River where there just has to be a treasure trove of various superhuman gadgets. Back at the Bugle, Jameson explains why the Grizzly was after him. Basically, the Grizzly was a wrestler who Jameson thought was a little too rough. So he treated the Grizzly the same as he does Spider-Man, declaring that he was a menace and got him banned from wrestling. So obviously the Grizzly wanted revenge. So Spidey catches up with the Grizzly at his old gym and pretty much takes care of him by ripping his costume off, using his webbing, and, ultimately just gets some web to the wall, and it was pretty much a non-event. But guess who we didn't see again in this issue? Yeah, that's right, the Jackal. He pretty much left the Grizzly high and dry. So I'm Kevin, and that was my commentary on multiple issues of Spider-Man. The Grizzly actually could have been a decent villain, I think, but he pretty much a loser most of his career. I guess he tried to go straight a couple times, and according to the Marvel Wikipedia page on him, he actually works now for Ant-Man Security Solutions, which is something that is going on in the latest incarnation of Ant-Man comic that is out today. I'm still bothered by that harness deal the Jackal put on Peter's arm. It was an interesting plot device, but it was basically thrown away really quickly. And hey, I went to 5 issues here, and what the heck about that letter that explains why Doc Ock wanted to marry Aunt May? You know, the one that talks about the inheritance? There was nothing about that. We got the Mindworm instead for some reason. I'm beginning to think that we won't know about that letter anytime soon, although I do think they go back to it, but I think it may be after we get through this Jackal finale that we all know is coming up. And speaking of coming up, next time I'm going to run through another batch of issues as we get to the heart of this whole Jackal thing, but fear not, I shall include the important bits that lead up to the main event And there are some good ones, along with a mess of second and third rate villains. That was actually kind of normal for Spider-Man to fight. So make sure you see it by clicking on that subscribe button. Also, don't forget to like and share this with other Spideophiles so they can get their dose of 70s spider goodness. So until next time, make it a great day, and I will see you later.